Let's talk about this Buchardt Sub10 subwoofer. In my opinion, for two-channel stereo, when a pair of speakers has bass extension that reaches all the way down to 35 to 40 hertz region, this level of bass reach makes adding a subwoofer optional and really a matter of personal taste. And for me, certainly bass reach below 35 hertz in the 30 to 35 hertz region means I don't feel compelled to supplement that bass with a subwoofer. However, as I have evaluated and listened to this Buchardt Sub10, it has been clear and evident that even in this case, you get a better sounding product from your hi-fi system when you do add a subwoofer to speakers that even on their own have bass reach all the way down to 30 hertz. And the overall sound quality that you hear from your hi-fi system with a subwoofer properly integrated into a system with bass reach down to 30 hertz, the difference is significant. So much so that in the process of listening to this Buchardt Sub10 in 2 different listening rooms, on 5 different pairs of speakers, on 4 different amps, it's now my opinion that if you don't currently have a subwoofer in your 2-channel stereo setup, and if you're planning to upgrade your speakers, in my opinion, the best way to upgrade the sound of your hi-fi system is to invest in a good subwoofer, in the right subwoofer. Hi, and welcome. I'm Hunter-Gray, and this is Hunter-Gray-LUV-Music. It's important to me that my music sounds beautiful when I play it. So that's why we are here talking about hi-fi gear, because your hi-fi gear and my hi-fi gear helps or can hurt how the music that we love sounds when we play it at home. So slow down for a few minutes and enjoy while we talk about this Buchardt Sub10 and subwoofers broadly, and how to properly integrate subwoofers and how to avoid that subwoofer integration process turning into a pain in the butt, like crawling around your listening room doing the dreaded subwoofer crawl. Yuck. However, spoiler alert, this Buchardt Sub10 has some very cool tech built in that really takes away all of those old subwoofer integration headaches and problems. In fact, there is so much to talk about here that I'm going to do this review in 2 parts, both to cover everything that I have learned and I want to tell you about this Buchardt Sub10 and what it can do, and also so that I have time to talk about properly integrating a subwoofer into your stereo pair of speakers. Now, the added tech that Buchardt has built into this Sub10 is a big deal. For me, at least, yes, ultimately sound performance is the first order of importance, but personally, I'm willing to pay some convenience fee for tech that makes both physical placement and proper sound integration fast and easy. My guess is most hi-fi enthusiasts who have suffered through the frustration of not being able to get your subwoofer to sound right and be smoothly integrated into your system will agree with me on this. So let's take a quick look at the Sub10 specs and the added tech that is inside. So, list price on the Buchardt Sub10, only available directly from the Buchardt website. So you get higher quality for less money buying direct from the manufacturer, in my opinion, with Zoo Audio, with Buchardt Audio. 1,300 euros. Currently, it's on sale for 1,200 euros. That is roughly $1,259 currently at the Euro US dollar exchange rate. And that includes both shipping anywhere in the world plus the tax cost. This is a 10-inch woofer in a sealed box, has a magnetic, it's really hard when it's on there, so goes on easily, harder to come off. There we go. Internally, there is a Hypex Class D power amp with 400 watts RMS and 1200 watt peak. You also get room correction capability software built in through the Buchardt app, which I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't even used because I haven't felt it necessary. This sub with the Buchardt app successfully integrates so easily into both your pair of stereo speakers and into the room. So I haven't felt it necessary. So that's my disclosure. I haven't touched the room correction software within the app. You also get lossless advanced EQ. That's significant, lossless EQ. And that's either when you're using the room correction software, or you can manually use the EQ and mess around with the EQ settings yourself. There is a Buchardt app, in their words, app-based control center. I love having the app. I will talk more about that as I compare with my KEF KC62 sub in the corner, which does not have an app. So the Buchardt app I've been very, very happy with. Now, there is a variable phase level control that goes not just binary from 0 to 180, but you can adjust it in between. As I played around with that, but as with my KC62 sub, I ended up leaving it at 0. Now, I have the sub right now because the sucker weighs 31 pounds. It's heavy enough. Even though, as you can see, it's really a thin rectangle of a box. And cosmetically, aesthetically, I really like how the 10-inch sub is not dead center. It's more interesting being offset. But I am going to rotate this around on the stool that I've got it on, not to show off how it looks. It's black satin matte, but to show you the back here. And you can see some with the sunlight on it, but you're not going to see everything when I start show and tell pointing. But here is the knob for your variable phase level control. So it's not just 180 or 0. You can adjust it in between. As I said, I ended up leaving it at 0. Next, below here is a manual knob for not through the app, but manually adjusting on the back here, the low pass filter for the Sub10. And I'm sorry, this is actually the volume level, how much the SPL level, the volume level that you're getting from the Buchardt Sub10. And then there's a button right here where you can manually adjust the crossover, the low pass crossover level. Now, when you're in the app, you can control both the high pass filter setting and the low pass filter setting, and it's excellent. Now, in this room, first I just ran, because I have a line out setting from the Audiolab 6000A, went straight into here, and then I needed to use the crossover settings here. But when I went into the living room, all three of my amps in there do not have an LFE out or a line out. So I ran RCA out of my DAC into the RCA here. And then this is the output RCA and back into the amp. When you do your configuration this way, line out from either a preamp or, like I said, I came out of my DAC into here, and then line out RCA back into the amp. Then in the Buchardt app, I was able to control and change instantly both the low pass setting on the sub and the high pass on the stereo speakers. It was fantastic. So the frequency response range on the Buchardt sub is 16 hertz. Now, Buchardt gives you on this sub master tunings. This is the little USB stick that comes in the box with it. You simply go to their website, download the master tuning. There are 3 of them. I'm a Mac user, so my MacBook here, I have the dongle, plug the USB stick into here, drag and drop the master tuning onto the stick, and then right here is the USB port. Plug it, turn the Sub10 off, plug in the USB stick, turn it back on, and in less than a second, it loads the master tuning. And then within the app, it will show you which master tuning you are currently set on. I tried all 3 of them. I settled on the deep bass master tuning, and that they call it deep bass. That gives me bass extension down to 16 hertz, but it maxes out at a top SPL, they say, of 94 dB. 94 dB is way louder than I enjoy listening to at home. So I wanted that extra bass extension reach down to 16 hertz, and I'm fine with it maxing out at 94 dB. I didn't even test that. So as I said, tried all 3 master tunings, and for my music library and the SPLs that I enjoyed listening at, I loved the deep bass master tuning, and I left it at that. You will notice that they also come with a pack of 8 of the rubber feet that you peel and stick on. I positioned it. This was the bottom in my living room, so I slid it across the carpet. In here, I have hardwood floors, so I put these on, and I positioned it that way so that I could rock it back. And when I leaned over, all of this was not upside down. I could see it. But you can put it with the bass, the woofer up, and slide it under a piece of furniture, or literally anyway. This is the most easy subwoofer I have ever come across in terms of physically positioning it. It goes anywhere, even to the point twice here, I put it in between these 2 speakers right up against this wall. And I don't know if you can tell with the lighting. Do you see how this is set back an 1.5 inches maybe or so? So it's designed that you can push it flush up against the wall. And I did that here, and I put it behind my stereo rack where all the cables are, and I pushed it up against the wall. So much so that they give you these angled RCA adapters just in case your RCA cables are sticking out too far and not allowing you to push this as close and flush to the wall as you want. I didn't use these. My cables, it was okay. I wasn't that OCD. It was like just a fraction out from the wall. But the fact that they give you these angle adapters for your RCA just highlights how amazingly flexible this is when it comes to positioning. And I got to tell you, I positioned this, falling off here. I positioned this Sub10 in right up against the wall, in between the center of these 2 KEF LS50 metas, against the wall underneath that light, and in the corner where I have the KEF KC62 sub. And in the living room, I had it in 2 places, including behind the stereo rack, right up against the wall. All 5 of those places, the physical positioning worked. It did not create distortion, boomy, muddy bass. It did not create peaks and nulls of bass as I walked around in the room. Absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you how happy I am. So very, very impressed. Quick comparison, the KEF KC62 sub is also 31 pounds. This has a bass extension with the deep bass master tuning down to 16 hertz. And KEF says the KC62 sub will have a bass reach down to 11 hertz, but we're below 20 hertz. Come on, we're dealing with vibrations here. This has the capability for WISA, wireless connective capabilities. I don't have that, so I can't speak to that. I didn't use that. As you saw, there was both XLR connector capabilities and RCA. I only used RCA. It was super, no fuss, no muss, really easy. So really easy, simple, fast, great experience in terms of placement and connection. Now, let's acknowledge adding a subwoofer can be a real pain in the butt to properly integrate into not just your stereo speakers, but also into your listening room, both sonically and aesthetically. Problem number one, integrating the physical subwoofer aesthetically into your room. First, in terms of where you may be forced to place the sub in the room to avoid creating these peaks and nulls of bass in that room, that happens frequently. Didn't have any of that issue with the Buchardt Sub10. And then also in terms of the decor and aesthetics, what does the sub look like? Well, personally, I like the design language of KEF Meta and the LS50 Meta. The KEF has a really modern curve. It's a tiny 10-inch tall, heavy cube, the KC62, but it's curved around. I think the aesthetic, I prefer the KEF KC62 sub, but this is nondescript. It's black satin, or you can get white satin. It's not going to collect dust and fingerprints. It looks fine, but more importantly, I can choose physically where I want this sub to be in my listening room based on how my room is laid out, not based on where it has to go to get proper bass response in the room. That's a big deal. Problem number two, integrating the sound of the bass properly and smoothly into both of your stereo speakers, meaning the bass should appear to be coming from the stereo pair of speakers and not from the subwoofer. If the bass is so much that you want to look at the subwoofer because it's clear that that's where the source of the bass is coming from, that's not properly integrated to me. It should be this sonic illusion, this created sense that, oh my gosh, the bass that your stereo speakers create is amazing. And that is properly integrated subwoofer into a stereo pair of speakers. And all of this has to be able to be accomplished without the bass becoming muddy or boomy or distorted, and without peaks and nulls of bass as you walk around or you sit in different places in your listening room. It's kind of a tall order, honestly, and that's why so many of us have had unsuccessful attempts and experiences in our past when trying to integrate a sub into our system. Before manufacturers like Buchardt and KEF, my KC62, and SVS, just to name a few, before they started adding some really cool tech into their subs, back in the day, so to speak, when a subwoofer was just a big woofer and a big Class D amp built to drive that sucker really hard so the bass hits you in the chest, both of these were big problems. And as a result, a lot of us have had, just say, a bad experience in our hi-fi past with a subwoofer that we just couldn't get right in our room. And it's so frustrating. Do any of you also have that kind of a scar from your past in your hi-fi journey? I do. In fact, my first true success with a subwoofer was this KEF KC62 over here in the corner. When I bought my KEF LS50 Metas right here, I couldn't, and I still can't, make sense of the KEF specs regarding their frequency response and their bass range extension in terms of bass reach. They list, quote, frequency range minus 6 dB, 47 hertz to 45,000 hertz. And they also list typical in-room bass response, minus 6 dB at 26 hertz. I find that confusing. Which is it, 47 hertz or 26 hertz? So after I listened for myself for a couple of months to my LS50 metas in my room, I ultimately concluded I needed a subwoofer. So I added the matching KC62 subwoofer over in this corner. And for me, that completed the LS50 metas. And the metas paired with the KEF KC62 sub provides really high-level two-channel stereo sound reproduction. Amazing sound. I love this paired as a system. And the KC62 sub does have enough tech built in that I never had to do the subwoofer crawl. And I found that the corner, there are different setting options on the back of the KC62 sub. I used the corner option because I put it in the corner. And when I positioned the KC62 sub over there in the corner, it was perfect. And I wanted the sub physically in the corner. I used the corner setting and it resulted in perfect integration sonically into both the room in terms of no peaks and no nulls for bass and into the stereo pair of LS50 metas. Harps and angels and the sound of, heaven sonically. I was so happy. However, there is no app from KEF. So adjusting the low pass filter setting and the sub volume level must be done manually with the knobs on the back of the KC62 sub from KEF, which works well, and it isn't the end of the world, but it does lend itself to a set it and forget it rather than frequently getting back there and tweaking the bass volume or the low crossover, setting for fun. You just tend not to do that because there's enough friction there. Also, with the KEF KC62 sub, if I turn, and this is my one real detraction, the not having the app, and if I turn up the volume too much, the bass starts to sound like it's coming from the KC62 and not from the speakers anymore, which breaks that wonderful sonic illusion that your stereo speakers are creating all of this wonderful bass. And that is not properly integrated into the stereo pair when that happens. Now, I was able to successfully and easily integrate this Buchardt Sub10 in with these LS50 metas also. And I was able to put it in the center and on either wall and in the corner, and it worked perfectly with just no fuss, no muss. I was able to integrate the Sub10 in the living room with the Buchardt P300s and also with my Sonus Faber Lumina 5 Tower floor standers and the Zoo Audio DW6 bass model in the living room, all no fuss, no muss, very easily. And I did that successfully in 3 positions in this room, as I mentioned, and I placed the Buchardt Sub10 in 2 different positions in the living room. Based on this experience, I think you will be able to place this Buchardt Sub10 any place you want in your listening room and get the proper sonic integration into both your room and into your system. This is a big deal, in my opinion, because historically this has not been the case with subwoofers. And I was able to A/B compare this Buchardt Sub10 with my KEF KC62 subwoofer, which will be the focus of part 2 of this video. So that is part 1 of my take on this wonderful Buchardt Sub10. I am a big fan. Sneak peek for part 2. I have scored the KEF KC62 sub at a 9.5 out of 10, and I have scored this Buchardt Sub10 a 9.8 out of 10. So check out part 2 to hear why each one lost some points in my scoring. I want to say thank you for watching. My goal is to help you reach and enjoy your hi-fi happy place, and most definitely, please come back to this channel and watch part 2. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again on the next video, part 2.